Welcome back to the last part of this Halo Infinite overview. In the previous part, we had just deactivated the command spire, and when Echo 216 arrived, we prepared for extraction. This was unsuccessful, as one of the Spartan killers stalked the pilot and managed to kidnap him right in front of the chief, and so we teleport closer to the Pelican's last known location in order to stage a rescue. This takes us to the repository, which puts us in striking distance of Esharum's stronghold, the House of Reckoning.
What just happened?
You told me to get us close.
Escharum contacts the chief, using the pilot's suffering as a means of luring the Spartan into confronting him.
I'm sorry. I couldn't.
He's alive. Barely. We need to help him.
Chief, please.
Do I have your attention, Spartan? Do I? You feel his pain. Each twist of my blade hurts you as much as him. He will not die by my hand, but he will suffer until you stand before me.
The final fight is drawing near. As you rush to the repository, you witness some of the atrocities committed by Cortana, like the destruction of Laconia Station, the destruction of the UNSC HQ in Sydney, and the presumed death of Lord Hood, and lastly, the destruction of Doizak, the brute homeworld. This is the reason why Atriox chose to take up arms against humanity in the first place. A creation, a human creation, destroyed his homeworld, the homeworld of his species. It is also here that the weapon finds out about their true origin.
Atrioxes? An entire planet? How could she do that?
I don't know anymore.
There's something you're not telling me.
The only way to access the ring, to reach Cortana,
was to make a copy.
She's an exact copy of Cortana, without any of the memories that could compromise her, and so she finally comes to accept why the Master Chief almost deleted her. And this brings me to the point that I've been trying to explore for the past 3 missions, but couldn't do so fully without letting you in on this important revelation. Even though this is an exact copy of Cortana, Master Chief was nevertheless strong-willed enough to make the choice of deleting the weapon in order to complete the mission, to complete his objective. And let's explore that. This is akin of you having a copy of a family member who's passed away, and this copy will grow up to have the same personality, the same mannerisms, the same essence, the same presence, so you basically get a do-over with them. And yet, you have orders to delete this copy, to deny yourself from having that second chance. Would you be able to? Most of us probably wouldn't be capable of making such a call, but the Master Chief did try to do it. If it wasn't for the weapon's interference, he would have deleted her. So this just speaks volumes about the Master Chief's indomitable will. But here, he chooses differently. Partly because he needs her help in order to stage the rescue. Partly because he feels like she understands what Cortana did was wrong. But at the end of the day, he chooses this because it's a second chance at protecting Cortana, in a way. It's a chance for atonement, an opportunity that most of us don't get. Up next, he'll take part in the mission called The Road. This is supposed to be the build-up to the finale, and this is the last obstacle in your way before you can get to the House of Reckoning. Being the build-up to the finale, you would expect something epic, something that would make it stand out, especially in the campaign that it's set in. For me, The Road is a low point in this campaign, and that's for a very simple reason. It lacks a set piece that sets it aside, and that would make it stand out from the rest of the missions. For example, you have the Warthog Run playing, and the Never Tell Me the Odds track as well. It's a great soundtrack, but again, there's nothing happening that would warrant such music. I mean, you're making a push towards the enemy base to rescue the pilot, but the only allies you have with you are 3 Marines that you rescue in the beginning of the mission. Sometimes they get in the Scorpion with you, but even if they do, that doesn't last long since the vehicle health in this game is so low. Or they'll go on foot and they will die early on. So even though you have this big sandbox and you have all these vehicles to play around with within this interesting arena, the lack of a set piece and more on-screen allies makes it all feel very empty and underwhelming. To me, it was a disappointment of a mission in an otherwise great campaign. However, if you can forget that this is supposed to be the build-up, you'll still find that there's still some fun to be had, mainly due to the enemy variety and the gameplay mechanics. When you penetrate the enemy's perimeter, you'll find yourself within arm's reach of the House of Reckoning. The House of Reckoning is very much a trial by combat. Escharum puts you through many tests, through arenas where you'll face every kind of enemy you have come across thus far. Think of this as a test, to determine if you're worthy of facing the man himself. It allows you to experiment with all the tactics you've been using up until now, as a means to prepare you for the battles to come. However, everything thrown at you up until this point is nothing compared to what comes next. The build up to the boss fight with Jaeger is just top notch. The soundtrack actually takes a step back, and the ambient sounds take center stage, establishing that horror vibe that you'll feel throughout this battle, both in the visuals and in the sound department.
I miss you. I miss you.
And I love you.
I love you, Daddy.
Meet your end. Say goodbye.
As with Shacklock, I implore you to try and beat this guy without the threat sensor. There's just something about trying to face an invisible enemy without resorting to technology to hunt them down. I guess you could say that I'm using the thruster, so at the end of the day I am using technology to escape, but you know what I mean. It's that feeling of satisfaction that you can only get by relying solely on your senses to try and determine where he's gonna come from, and then dodging his attacks at just the precise moment.
Give in.
When you finally neutralize the Blade Master, his cloaking device will activate, which prevents us from finding the body, which probably means that he survived this encounter with the demon. After this battle, you make haste and head to the pilot's last known location. When you get there, you finally get to face the man himself.
I told you that I would not kill him.
Leave me. Run!
We'll get you out of here.
No. You will try.
Chief, he's here.
He knows I'm here. This was never a trap. It is a test of metal. Our battle ends here.
Get him out of there.
On it.
Bear witness. Our story will become legend, told by those that survive you.
For Escharum, this is more than just another battle. For him, it's a chance to feel the thrill of combat once again, a chance to avenge the loss of his homeworld, a chance to avenge Atriox and upkeep what the Banished stand for, an opportunity for warriors to fight on their own terms without pledging allegiance or paying tribute to figures of authority. Throughout this boss battle, Escharum will resort to a shield that absorbs the damage and passes it on to Echo 216, so in order to beat him, you have to destroy the relays that facilitate this process. So how can you beat him? In my experience, the best method consists of nibbling away at his health with conventional weapons and fusion coils in the first phase of the battle. Save the power weapons for later, because here you can manage to keep the distance between you and him. the second phase, however, you must use the power weapons that you've refrained from using in the first phase, as they will deal the damage necessary to put them down quickly, thus reducing the chances of you committing a mistake, which can be costly in Legendary. And trust me, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So once he whips out the Diminisher of Hope, the margin of error will become almost non-existent, which is where those power weapons come in and save the day.
Okay.
I can't believe you came for me. So we're done now, right?
Spartan! Fight me.
It's over.
Nothing ends. My death will inspire 1,000 others. Tell them I died well.
Here we can see the Master Chief paying respects to his former adversary, Escharum. But there's also something else. The Master Chief has been through countless trials and tribulations. He has obeyed orders in countless times. Since his kidnapping and enlistment into the Spartan program, he was programmed and indoctrinated into following orders, because anything less could compromise their lives and the success of their mission above all. So he obeyed so many commands without question, and I think at this point, especially after everything that he's seen, he's kind of questioning whether everything that he did was good or even morally correct. And so I think he kind of sees a bit of himself in Escharum, and especially because Escharum to us, or Escharum to humanity in the Halo universe, is a villain. Undoubtedly so. The monster killed many people in the ring with little regard for their lives. But again, he was just defending the interests of his people, his kinship, his group, his mercenaries, banished. And to a certain extent, his fight is even more warranted because he's looking out for the future of the ones that he knows, of the faction that he created, is looking out for the people that he basically sold a dream to. He and Atriox, of course. So it is all a matter of perspective.
We need to move. The Harbinger's at the auditorium. Whatever she's planning.
It's worse. I get it. Okay then. I have one question before we leave.
What is it?
Has anyone seen a pelican? Ow. What? What? I had a lot going on. I was busy.
The silent auditorium. Oh no.
What is it? What's wrong?
I should have realized. That's not what it was called. I I've been here before. This is where I locked her down. This is where Cortana died.
What do we call her?
Did you hear me? We're here. You need to go now.
You're closing in on where Cortana died and rushing to stop the return of the Endless. During your progress through this installation, you'll experience echoes of Cortana's memories, echoes that reveal to you why Atriox personally went after the Master Chief. He did so as a means of exacting revenge on Cortana for what she did to Doizak, the brute homeworld. And in turn, we get to see how Cortana exacted revenge on Atriox for supposedly killing the Chief.
Thank you, Atriox. You helped me. You really did. Would you humor me? If you knew how you were going to die, how would you live your life differently?
I would change nothing.
Perfect. Thank you.
What are you doing?
Making things right. It was her. She destroyed the ring, stopped my deletion. Why?
In her final moments, she realizes the error of her ways and prepares a contingency plan to help both the Chief and the weapon succeed in their inevitable battle for the ring against the Banished and the Endless. You'll fight the Harbinger in the Silent Auditorium, where a species was sentenced to internal imprisonment for simply being immune to the effects of the Halo Array. This was one of the many sins of the Forerunners. Anyway, we have a fight on our hands, a fight against an ambassador of sorts, an envoy for the Endless, that wishes to expose all the lies concocted by the Forerunners all those years ago. With all this additional context, you can really empathize with the Harbinger. Let me put it this way. You're the last member of your species, and you know that your race was sentenced to something so horrible, just because they were immune to an alien creation, one which was designed to wipe out all life in the galaxy. Yes, it was designed to stop an unrelenting parasite, the Flood, by killing their food, but that doesn't justify the imprisonment of an entire species simply because of what was given to them by nature. Anyway, during this fight, especially in Legendary, you'll get the privilege of experiencing many of the BS moments this arena has to offer. Here's how you can survive this fight if you're an absolute noob.
Like me.
First, equip the grapple and simply play merry-go-round all the way, using the resulting momentum to kill all the bloodthirsty aliens who might be dumb enough to cross paths with you. Don't ever stop, because you'll get sniped if you do. Just keep moving. When the time comes to face the Harbinger, play around cover as much as you can so you don't get hit by our orbs. And just like that, you'll be able to keep your health and shields intact so you can dish out punishment. Repeat this process throughout all the different phases, and when the time comes to face BS's son, remember to kill all the sidekicks escorting him so that you're free to cheese the goddamn brute. Get on these little platforms while rocking a Cinder Shot and a Sentinel Beam. Dish out as much damage as you can, then jump down to the ground floor when he gets close, and as soon as he drops down to your level, grapple up and hit him from range. Repeat this process a couple of times in a short time span, and you'll be able to get him. After dealing with the real boss, you still have to take out the Harbinger. The same tactic I recommended before is still valid in this phase, so just repeat it if you're feeling uninspired. As the battle closes to an end, she dies, speaking to her people, reassuring them and foretelling their return.
You
what you need. Tell them I am sorry it took so long.
Who's she talking to?
Unknown. The signal's old? Like, really old.
My time is ended. Yours too. They will make sure.
We need extraction.
Of course you do. On my way.
The Endless will return.
I couldn't decrypt
Here you
it.
can pick out some amazing motifs from the story that's being portrayed on screen. For instance, this is a typical depiction of history being written by the victors. From what little information we do have about the Endless, they seem to be a species that trained their individuals to be diplomats and ambassadors, but they also seem to be a species that found out how costly that can be when a race like theirs goes up against a civilization that trains their people to be conquerors, like the Forerunners. Again, this whole thing is not heavy-handed, and it's certainly not shoved in your face, and that's exactly what's perfect about it. It respects the player, it lets you figure out this stuff out on your own. It also helps that it's a timeless theme, ever applicable and ever relevant. It also asks, is there such a thing as a right side of history? I mean, the information presented here heavily depicts the Endless as the victims, but could that in itself be untrue? These are questions that are left unanswered by the game, and if the story was successful in what it's trying to say, then it's likely you'll be asking yourself these questions by the time the credits roll. This is one of the many reasons why I like Infinite's campaign. It's simple, it's upbeat, yes, but there are things that you can infer and pick out if you're paying attention. And that brings me to my next point. Why did I name these videos Halo Infinite's campaign is a throwback? Well, you see, I was born in a time where the games industry had this mythical category called middleware games or AA games. These range from amazing and surprisingly well-made experiences to mediocre cash grabs with an appealing box art. They represented the majority of the games available at the time, which proved to be amazing as they were the perfect birthplace for various experimental and whack ventures. And venture they did, with a creative backbone and a risk-taking attitude, something the gaming industry is lacking severely in this day and age. But to bring it back to the point I was making, this is why Halo Infinite's campaign feels like a throwback to me. It's a simple yet effective story, with heavy focus on fun gameplay, and that is the key word. Fun. Every time I play this game, I'm having a blast, like I used to with those old games, where fun was prioritized over complex narrative. Now, I don't want good stories to be done away with. Absolutely not. I'm a sucker for good storytelling, but not every game needs that. And that's why I think Infinite hasn't really wowed people like its Bungie predecessors. It's a fun game, but it fails at combining that expert storytelling that Halo is known for with the captivating, engaging and fun gameplay experience it currently offers. Ultimately, that's why it falls short of being one of the greats of the Halo franchise. But I'll give it my final thoughts at the end of this recap. After our triumph over the Harbinger, we are greeted by Cortana's last recorded message. She professes her regrets to the Chief and comes to the realization that the work she sought out to do on her own was always destined to fail. The reason her past exploits were performed with success was because they weren't just hers, they were also the Chief's. They were created and paired up to perfectly integrate and work together in order to achieve tasks none of them could accomplish on their own. This epiphany gives further context as to why she was so adamant in ensuring the weapon and the Chief's success. She knew the Master Chief now had an equally capable AI construct that would help him succeed and surpass any challenges he might come across. She remained true to her purpose, and in taking these actions, she has made sure that John is better equipped to remain true to his. I personally really love this send-off for Cortana. Yes, Halo 4 is my favorite, but since Halo 5's writing misstep, this is the next best thing, and I do hope they never go back on this decision. Shortly after the goodbye, the auditorium starts collapsing all around the main characters, forcing them to take a portal that was summoned by some unknown entity. This takes them to the opposite side of their starting point in Zeta Halo.
Let's not do that again.
I did try to tell you it was a bad idea.
Chief! Your beacon just appeared out of nowhere. Oh, I thought I lost you. Where did you go?
Echo 216.
Stay put. I'm coming to you. Chief! Chief! Oh. Sorry. I'm really happy to see you. Really happy. So, what do we do now?
We finish the fight.
Yes, sir. The Banished still control the rest of the ring.
Wait. I know this is weird, given all that's happened, but
What? What is it?
we still don't know your name. We can't keep calling you Echo 216.
No, you can't. Esparza. Fernando Esparza.
It's nice to meet you, Esparza. Fernando Esparza.
Good work, soldier.
With just a few short exchanges, it quickly becomes clear that our characters are in a much different place when compared to where they were at the start of the game. The main cast of characters now heads off to continue the UNSC's campaign in the ring, and that's it. The credits roll and there's a post-credits scene. I won't dissect it here, Hidden Xperia has got you covered on that one, but on a surface level, it depicts the shady plan that the Forerunners put in motion to silence and control the Endless. It also gives us a glimpse of Atriox. Doing what exactly? That I don't know. There are only theories at this point. What I do know is that Infinite's story is exactly what 343 needs to get the franchise's narrative back on track. The tone, the atmosphere, the art style, the soundtrack, and the gameplay all scream Halo, which is something the studio has been struggling to nail since their inception. I believe that they now possess all the ingredients to make a great Halo story. They just need to take the foundation set up by this game and infuse it with the amazing set pieces, intriguing world building, and beautiful story from the original games. And before I close off this recap, I just want to mention that I can't even hold the multiplayer portion of this game in the same regard that I hold the single player. The reasons are innumerous, but I believe it comes down to lack of content, which ultimately spells doom for any live service. But besides all that, that's a discussion for a whole different video. I do hope, however, that in time that will rise up in the ranks as well, and I can come back and recommend that you play it, just as much as I can sit here and recommend that you play this game's campaign. Holy hell, guys, I finally managed to finish this series off for good. This whole idea of this video, or the series, but the original idea was just one big video, but the scope, the length was just so much more than what I was expecting that I had to eventually split it into parts. But before I go any further, I do want to apologize for my absence and for this third part to be uploaded so far apart from the other two parts. I was dealing with some health complications that literally prevented me from sitting down and actually editing. I won't go into detail, but to summarize, that is why this part in particular has taken so long to actually be created, uploaded, and delivered to you. Now that I'm feeling better, you can expect videos to resume their normal uploading schedule of one video every 2 weeks, with maybe a skit or a commentary video mixed in between those. And we'll see. I already have some ideas on the pipeline, so I'm gonna get to work on those. But thank you everybody for your patience. This was one hell of a series to make. I hope to see you guys on the next video, and thank you so much for the support. However small, however big, it doesn't matter. Thank you so much, and I'll hopefully see you later for the next video. Take care.